Hello guys, welcome to StackNet. Today I'm going to show you how to do app in vanilla JavaScript. In other words, just plain JavaScript. So my name is Noel from StackNet, and you can always find me on Twitter. Straight away, I'm going to get into the StackNet folder, and I'm going to create a directory. I'm going to call it to do. I'm going to get into to do, and I'm going to add a file index.html. I'm going to make another directory called assets to hold our assets, and I'm going to add two other files in assets. The first one is going to be stars.css, and the second one is going to be app assets, and it's going to be app.js, like that. Now that that's done, I want to open that in VS Code, and here we go. So I have an app.js, I have a style.js, and finally I have an index.html. Inside here, I'm just going to start up with the HTML5 layout, and I'm going to add a title here called stack.do. I like to call it that way. Next thing I want to do, I would just like to import some assets that we are going to use. For example, we're going to be needing Bootstrap 5. We're going to be needing font awesome CDN, and I'm going to be needing the Ubuntu font from Google Fonts. So Bootstrap version 5, I can copy this into the header. Next thing I want is font awesome. I'm going to get that from Bootstrap CDN, and while that's loading, I want something of this magnitude. Is that bold enough? 400 should be good. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to link it immediately after my Bootstrap file. And finally, font awesome has loaded completely, so I'm going to have that down here, the link CSS, and I'm going to add that. So finally, I would like to add my custom style sheet, and that was named styles.css, and it's inside the assets directory. And then I'm also going to like to add my JavaScript file, which basically is in assets app.js. So let me just go ahead and add some HTML here so that we can see how it looks and test if our assets are loading properly. So I'm going to call this main.container fluid bootstrap class, and I'm going to create a header. In the header, I'm going to have a div with the logo, and inside there I'm going to have an h1, and this h1 is going to have a span with stack and do name of our app, and then below I'm going to have a div row and I'm going to have div div column MD6 like that. I'm going to do that 2 times. I should put this in div.column MD10 dot offset 1 like that, and I'm just going to open the browser and see how that looks. So all right, we have start do there. Next thing I want to check is if my CSS file and my JavaScript files are properly loaded, just so we don't have problems in the future. So here I'm going to do window dot add event listener DOM content loaded. This is to make sure that the document fully loads before we try to do anything with JavaScript. So we are going to write all our JavaScript inside of this structure. The log JavaScript loaded. And for the CSS, the only way to know that stuff has loaded is to basically apply some styles. So I'm going to start with a reset margin 0, box sizing. I'm going to give border box, and for the header I want to do a display of flex, and I want to justify the items to the center, and hopefully that should. So we have our heading at the center, and I should see if we have any message like console.log. So for some reason we have window.add event listener, so it should be DOM content loaded like that. And if we refresh that, you see JavaScript loaded. So right now our JavaScript is loaded properly, our CSS is loaded properly, and then we can just go ahead coding. So right here I'm going to add a card, div.card, and I'm going to do div.card header. This is Bootstrap. I'm going to add an h2 inside here. I'm going to call this add to dos, and I'm going to create a body, div.card body like that. That should not be in here, that should be out of the card header. And I'm going to copy the card and bring it down here, and I'm going to give this just to do, it's not add to do. And so if we look at that in the browser, we should have so we have call MD6, but all of them are just stacked on top of one another. So we should see what the problem is with that. We have call MD6, you have call MD6, and then all of these are inside a row of call MD10. Perhaps I should take that out and just have it like that. Alright, so everything just fills up the whole screen. So perhaps all MD10 set 1, and let's see. Now this should be div the row, now that works good. So we kind of have the space that we want to have. For the logo, I'm just going to give a margin top of 5. That's a class from Bootstrap. Let's see how that looks. So yeah, we've got that. And I want to get the background color of this and use it in my app. So I'm going to come here, web developer, eyedropper. I want to get this background color. And in my styles, I'm going to add body. I'm going to add background color, and I'm just going to give that color. I'm also going to do card border radius, because the border radius is kind of rounded. I don't want that. If you look here, we had rounded border radius, but now it's all square. So I kind of like it like that. And finally, I would like to style the logo. We have the logo and the H1 span, so I could simply do header, header logo, logo span. I'm going to do color white, background color should be black, and then I want to give a padding of like 2 pixels, and let's see how that looks. So we kind of have this logo here. And finally, I want to make sure that my font family is Ubuntu. So I'm going to come to the body and I'm going to add that font family as Ubuntu, and let's check that again. So now this looks a little bit more lush. So I'm going to close Font Awesome, Bootstrap, and that. And in here, in my HTML, I'm just going to add like a form, and in this form I don't need any action. I'm going to have a field set just to group my fields with 2 inputs. The first one is going to have a placeholder of title, sample do, and then I'm going to have another input with the placeholder of maybe description and sample description, like that. And I'm going to have a button here that says add to do. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to do form.input. I want to give it a width of 100%, a height of 45 pixels, border of maybe 2 pixels solid, and make it black. So let's see how that looks. So that's beginning to look good. I'm just going to open my HTML and I'm going to add a class of margin top 2. I'm going to give a class again of margin top 2, and if I save that, see, we've got enough space there. So the last thing I want to style is the button. I'm going to give it a class of btn custom for our custom button, and in here I'm going to do btn custom, and I'm going to say color should be white, hash background color should be black, and width should be like 150 pixels, height should be 45 pixels, and if someone hovers on it, you should just have a background color that is a little bit lighter, and let's see how that looks. So that looks good, except that the border and the text is not bold enough. So border will be 1 pixel solid, still black, and the font weight should be like 600. And now we have a very good looking button, and I'm going to use an old technique to center the button. I don't know if it's old, but I'm going to put this in div.text center. It's a Bootstrap class using centering text that just works effectively in centering stuff, and it centers the button. And I'm going to give it a margin top of 2, and boom, we have our add to do form looking very neat and clean. I could give some space here, maybe margin top 2, and see how that looks. All right, that's good. So I'm going to add IDs to this. I'm going to give this an ID of to do title, and I'm going to give this one an ID of to do description. To do description. You can see that. Next thing I want to add is a table, so I'm going to do bootstrap table, and if we open bootstrap 5 table, we have this table here which I can just copy, and I'm going to put it in the body, and we have an ID. We have to do we can just have title, we can have description, we can have this state, and I'm going to add one header called actions, and I'm going to delete all the rows except the first one, and I'm going to add an additional table data. So yeah, I can put sample title. I can do here sample description, and for the state I want to add badges. I want to add a span done with the class badge and bg success, or I want to add a span not done with the same class badge and bg danger. And then in actions I want to have 2 buttons. I'm going to have a span, first one, and an I with a class of far trash. For delete, and then I'm going to have an input of type checkbox, and I'm going to give it a class of from check input from Bootstrap, and let's see how that looks. So so this kind of looks good. We have our delete button and our checkbox to mark the to-do as done, I'm going to give this guy a class of text danger to make it red, and yeah, it now makes sense. So now we have our add to do view, and we have our add to do table, and we have a form and a table where we can add and visualize our to do. So the next thing we want to do is to add the JavaScript that is actually going to make this application reactive. So I'm going to go into my JavaScript file, and I'm going to try to capture the elements. So this table has a class table. I'm going to add an ID, and I'm going to call it not there. I'm going to do it on the body. I'm going to do a class ID. I'm going to call it to do table, like that. And in this button, I'm going to give it an ID of add to do. So now in my JavaScript file, I can just come and capture the variables. I'll start by taking this away, and I'm going to say let add to do button equal to document dot get element by ID. We want to get what add to do. The next thing I want to get are the inputs. Let to do title equal to document dot get element by ID. To do title, and then the next thing, let to do description. We need to have document dot get element by ID. To do description, and let's also get the table. Let table equal to document dot get element by ID. To do table. So I don't know if there's anything I've not gotten. So next thing, add to do dot add event listener. I want to add a click, and I'm going to add a function, then event, and I'm going to say console log I was clicked, like that. And if we open this and check the console, it shows I was clicked where the page reloads. So we want to add event dot prevent default, and we should do that again. Works now just fine. So I can take that away. So here, when someone clicks on add to do, what do I want to do? I want to add it to do. So I'm going to say let to do equal to an empty object. I'm going to say title equal to do title dot value, like that. And I'm going to do description to do description dot value. So this is just value, not value. I don't know where that's coming from. And I'm going to check if to do dot title you want to save the to do, else you probably want to display an alert saying that there is no to do. So let me add an alert for that. Just up here, I'm going to add div dot alert danger, like that. And I'm going to give this an ID of error alert, and in the JavaScript file I'm going to get let error alert equal to document get element by id error alert. So if there is no title, I want in my styles.css I'm going to set error alert to display none, just so that it doesn't show at the beginning. I'm going to put here display none, and in my JavaScript file I'm going to say error alert dot inner text. I want to say at least the to-do title is required, and then you want to do error alert dot star dot display. You want to put that to be blocked. Next thing I want to do is to set a timeout where I basically just hide the alert, because you don't want the alert to stay there forever. I hide the alert, and I'm going to do that after 3 seconds, and let's see how that works. So if I click here, you see it kind of shows me that, but my events that prevent default kind of disappeared. I don't know why, so I'm going to add that back, and see it stays there for 3 seconds and it disappears. It doesn't disappear, okay, because this is not known. So after 3 seconds that should go away. Yeah, that works good. And if I should put something in the title and click on add to do, it's not going to show anything, because at least the to do has title. So if it has a title, I want to save the to do, and to save the to do I need a data structure to save the to do. I'm going to create a map called to do list. A map is a JavaScript structure that is going to help us easily manage our to-dos without having to go through the stress of maybe splicing arrays to delete stuff from it. That said, I've created an object for my to-do. If there's a title, I first of all want to get let size equal to to-do list dot size. I want to get the size of my to-do, and from the beginning the to-do is actually empty, so it's going to return 0, and I don't want any to-do to have the ID 0, so I'm going to do it's going to be size plus 1 at all times. So we're going to do now to-do list dot set, or I can call this ID instead of size, so that it's very clear. That set ID, and I want to store the to do, but just before that I want to do to do dot ID equal to ID, and we can also add a state here done for all the to do's, and add done, which defaults to false. When a to do is added, of course it's not done, so we can just default that to false. And I want to console log my to do list to see what I've added inside. So coming back to my HTML, let me do first to do description, and add that. Let me do second to do and description and add that. So we kind of have that size 2 entries. It has the first and second to do. Something I noticed is after adding a to do, the fields are not cleared, so I'm going to do add to do dot value equal to empty. Add to do, sorry, it should be to do title dot value, and to do description dot value equal to empty string. So if I should add it to do, another to do another description, that works now. So we have we are now storing our to-dos in a map, and I don't need this console.log. So the next thing we want to do is actually show the to-do that we are saving on this table by the side. So I'm going to create a method or function called update table. So let update table equal to that, or you could just create it with the function keyword. So update table, and I am creating a method because, or function, because I'm going to need to update the table in several places. For example, when someone adds a to do, you want to update the table. When someone marks a to do as done, you want to update the table. If someone deletes a to do, you want to update the table. So all of these transactions need that we re-render the table. So I'm just going to create a method so that we can use it in multiple places. First, I'm going to get rows, and I'm going to make it empty. And then I want to get my to-dos. I'm going to say let to-dos equal to array, or let me see, maybe to-do lists dot values, and let me console dot log to-dos here, and I'm going to call update table right here after adding a to do, to see what that gives me. So so it gives me values. It's just a function, so I want to get the values, the actual values, and so it gives an iterator, which is not what I want. I would like to get an array from this array dot from to do list dot values. So let's see. Alright, we have an array with the to do list. I should add another one. Okay, so now that we have our array, I want to so I use array.from because the map is not an array and returns an iterator. I am trying to convert it to an array because I want to reverse the array so that the latest to do appears at the top. Like if you add a to do, it should be the last thing that shows up on the table. Now that we've got that done, I want to do to-dos dot for each. I'm going to say to do, run this function here, to rows plus equal to backticks. So I'm going to copy the HTML for the table and bring it here, which is actually this is a table row, and I'm going to put it inside here. But just before we go ahead, the first thing we want to do before adding anything to the table is actually deleting every item on the table. So the table is up here. I'm going to, in the update method, the first thing I want to do is table dot while table dot first element child. I want you to do table dot first element child dot parent node dot remove child table dot first element child. So this is just a strategy where I keep checking if, or JavaScript or whoever keeps checking that this table has a first element child, and it keeps deleting the first element until the table eventually becomes empty. So if I save this to try if that works, the table should become empty after running that function. So yeah, and now that the table is empty, we want to build a new table and add that. So first thing I want to do is to do dot id. Here I want to do the title. Here I want to do the description, and here I need to show either done or not done, and there's no real way for me to do that in here. So the strategy I will use is to take this out. I'm going to create a variable here called let done equal to to do dot done. Is it done? If yes, then I want this. If not, I want this, and I can end that, and instead of putting that there, I'm going to put done. And down here I think we are good to go for the moment. Let's just see. So add to do, there's nothing there. I'm going to do my first to do, description of my first to do. So that kind of builds the rows but doesn't add it to the table. So we create these rows, we continuously concatenate new table rows to this table string, but we don't add it anywhere. So after this, I'm going to do table dot inner HTML, and I'm going to do rows like that. So I should have my first to do, my description of my first to do. So we have that, and of course the first to do is not done. This should be another to do, and the description of another to do. So yeah, that kind of works, and I could add lots of gibberish to it without any title. So the next thing I want to do is to make sure that delete and uncheck gets the job done. Now I could attach an event to each of these buttons and just click on them, and when I click on them I do something. But the problem with that is you attach events to documents or to DOM elements when you're sure that by the time the JavaScript is loading, the events are the DOM elements are already there. But these elements are going to be added when our JavaScript that attaches the event has already kind of run. So it's not going to work if we attach the events directly on some class or on some button. So we need to do event delegation, and that means that we need to attach the event to something that is not going to be added on the document in future, because these table rows are added to the document in future, and if we add the elements in future, the events that were already existing on the page are not going to apply to it. So for me to do event delegation, I'm going to attach an event on the document itself. I'm going to do document.add event listener, click, and I'm going to do a function, and I'm going to put here console.log click. And if I open this document and click anywhere, you can see it's console.login that I've clicked anywhere on the document. But I don't want that. I want to have the click work only when I click on the delete button here. That will be added dynamically. So for me to do that, I'm going to look for, we have file trash. I'm going to say event, give me the event, and I'm going to do a check. I'm going to say if if event.target.classList that includes what class, file trash, it means that that is the class that is the button that was clicked. You can do console.log delete button clicked, like that, and let's test that. So now if I click, oh, it tells me include is not a function. That's true, include is not a function of class list, so I'm going to need to convert that into an array.from that. And should I click anywhere, you see nothing happens, but if I click on the delete button itself, it tells me that delete button clicked. If the delete button is clicked, we actually want to delete a to-do. So to delete a to-do, we could add a data attribute on the to-do and call it ID, and that would be to-do.id, .id, and I want to do this is text danger, or I could call it delete button, and in here I'm going to do event.target.closest. I'm going to say red ID or delete ID equal to event.target.closest delete button data set .id, and I want to console.log the ID just to be sure that what I'm getting is correct, and I'm going to remove the button that clicked. So when I click here, it gives me an error because event.target closest event target closest, is that how they spell it? Hopefully event.target.closest is null, so that's probably because that's not dynamic. So I'm going to go to the table and remove this row, and I'm going to add real rows, the application, And let's see my first to do, and yeah, it gives us the correct ID. That gives us the correct ID. So it gives us the correct ID, and so we can delete it. The way to delete from a map is just to do the map to do list dot delete delete ID, and after that you want to update the table so that deleted items disappear. So let's do that. We're gonna put some gibberish. So if I delete, it doesn't work for some reason. Okay, I should probably pass this as a number. So instead of doing that here, I should do it here. Get me that as a number because we pass the IDs as number. And one more time, gibberish. So now the delete works like charm, and the application is just so reactive. The last thing I want to do is to make sure that if I click on checked or unchecked, the state of the to-do actually changes. To do that, I'm going to do a similar thing like what I did for the delete. So I'm going to get this, and I'm going to put an ID. I don't need to put any ID, that's fine. I'll just copy this, and I'm going to close that, and instead of having file trash, I'm going to have this. So I'm going to say console.log checkbox clicked, and I'm going to add the data ID attribute to it so that we can also obtain the ID of the element we're clicking. So if I do checkbox click, and I can also get the ID of the element. So this is going to be checked ID. It's going to be event.target.dataset, no need for closes, and we need to console log check ID. So let's see. I'll start from the last one. It should output 3, 2, and 1. So that works like charm. The last thing I want to do is to actually update the to do and get the state. So I'm going to let to do equal to to do list dot get check ID. When you get the to do, you want to do to do dot done equal to event dot target dot checked, like that. And we want to save the to do. We have gotten the to do, updated the value to whatever the checkbox is. It could be true or false. Let me just console log that for benefit of doubt. Log to do done, and after that I want to do list dot set checked ID. I want to insert back the to do where you saw it or where you found it. So let's just see if that actually works, like if it updates the to-do correctly. So that check is true, check is false, check is true, check is false. So that works. So we can be sure that it's saved. The next thing we want to do is to update the table again. So if someone checks, you want to update the table to make sure that it reflects the state of the to-do that it has been done. But now a to-do shows, when we mark a to-do as done, it shows as done, but if we mark it as not done, or once it's marked as done, it doesn't really get back to its normal state. So we will have to solve that by moving out this checkbox field and doing a similar thing like what we did to the done and not done. So the checkbox field is basically the same as the done and not done, but I cannot give it the same variable. So I'll say let check equal to do the done. If it's checked, I want this, I want that. If to do the done, then you can add the property check like that. If not, you want to do this, but this time around without the property check. And then we could come down here and we just do checked. So one thing I failed to mention, or that is necessary for me to mention, is that as you can see, I'm just writing plain HTML here. If I were to do this the normal way, I'm going to have to do document.create element, and if I had to do document.create element here, you can imagine how many times I'm going to do that. The code is just going to be so long and a little bit unnatural because it's not HTML. You have to create document.create element for the table row and all the table data elements, or you create a row for them or something, and then you just attach the elements into it. But with this technique, I just write some plain HTML in backticks and I just update a variable with it, basically a string of HTML, and I put it as the inner HTML of whatever element I want to update. So I think this is way faster than trying to work with those DOM creation functions, and a little bit more natural. So let's see. So I'm going to mark it as done, and if it's not done, so you see it's very reactive, very reactive, and we can delete stuff. So guys, this is our to-do app. We can add stuff, we can delete. So just to create a real demo, first of all, if I try to add something without the title, it doesn't work. It gives me this flash up here and then disappears. But I can have my first to do, I can have description, I can have another to do, I can have another description, you can have yet another to do, and you can have yet another description. And I'm going to say make git tutorial and make simplest git tutorial ever, and add that. So I could mark something as done, I could mark it as not done, I could delete an item, and that's so good, very reactive, very fast, no framework, just plain JavaScript. So thank you guys, that was it for this. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment. I'm going to answer, and I'm also going to push the code to GitHub. And you can watch out for another video on DOM manipulation, because it's basically DOM manipulation. And also watch out for a course I'm going to upload for Git. For those of you who face difficulties with Git, I'm going to upload basically a course for dummies. So guys, see you next time. Thanks for watching, and stay in touch by subscribing, commenting, and just interacting. Thank you so much.